Good day everyone. Today I am going to discuss about the function of each 7 layers of Open System Interconnection Model, or commonly known as the OSI model. Okay? So what is OSI model? Okay? The OSI model is a conceptual framework developed by the International Organizations for Standardization, or ISO. Okay? It is used to describe how data is transmitted from one device to another over a network. Okay? Before the OSI model was introduced, the different systems had difficulty communicating with each other because they followed different standards. Okay, so the OSI model was created to provide a standard structure consisting of 7 layers. Okay, where each layer has a specific function. Okay, so the first layer we have physical layer, data link layer, network layer, transport layer, session layer, presentation layer, and last we have application layer. Okay, so the first layer is a physical layer and it has 4 functions. Okay, first we have bit synchronization, bitrate control, physical topologies, and transmission mode. Okay, the physical layer is the lowest layer of the OSI model. Okay, and it is responsible for the actual transmissions of raw data bits over a physical medium like cables, wires, or wireless signals. Okay, think of it as the hardware layer where communication physically happens. Okay, it handles bit synchronization, meaning both the sender and receiver follow the same timing so they can correctly send and read bits. Okay, it also controls the bit rate, which tell how fast data is being transmitted, like how many bits are sent per second. Okay, so without this layer, devices wouldn't be able to understand when a bit starts or ends, causing communication errors. Okay, and the physical layer defines how devices are physically connected through network topologies such as bus, star, or mesh, which describe the layout of connections between devices. Okay, it also determines the transmission mode, or how data flows between devices. Okay, so for example, in simplex, data flows in one direction only. Okay, in half duplex, data can go both ways but not at the same time. Okay, and in full duplex, data can be sent and received simultaneously. Okay, so overall, this layer ensures that data can physically travel from one device to another in a clear and organized way. Okay, and next layer we have data link layer. Okay, and it has 2 sub layers and 5 functions. Okay, the data link layer is responsible for making sure that data is transferred reliably between 2 devices that are directly connected on the same network. Okay, while the physical layer just sends raw bits, this layer organizes those bits into frames. Okay, when we say frames, small structured chunks of data. Okay, so they can be properly understood. It also checks for errors during transmissions and can request the data to be sent again if something goes wrong. Okay, in short, this layer ensures that the data sent from one device arrives correctly and in order to the next device. Okay, this layer is divided into 2 sub-layers, which are logical link control, or LLC, and media access control, or MAC. Okay, the LLC manages communications with the upper layers and handles error and flow control, okay? Making sure that the data transfer is smooth and controlled, okay? So, on the other hand, the MAC sublayer controls how devices access the network medium. When we say medium, like cables or Wi-Fi, okay? And uses MAC addresses to identify devices uniquely, okay? The data link layer also performs important functions like framing, physical addressing, error control, flow control, and access control, which all work together to ensure efficient and organized communications between devices on the same network. Okay, and the third layer, we have a network layer. This layer, we have two functions. Okay, routing and logical addressing, or network layer. Routing is the process used by the network layer to determine the best path for data to travel from one source device to its destination. Okay, why? Because networks are interconnected and complex. Okay, data does not follow a single fixed route. Instead, routers analyze different possible paths and choose the most efficient one based on factors like distance, congestion, and network availability. Okay, so as data moves across networks, each router passes through makes a quick decision on where to send it next. Okay, ensuring that the information reaches its destinations even if some paths are busy or unavailable. Okay, at the same time, logical addressing allows devices to be uniquely identified across different networks through IP addresses. Okay, so each device is assigned an IP address which acts like a digital identifier, enabling data packets to know exactly where they are coming from and where they need to go. Okay, when you send or receive data online, the network layer attaches these addresses to ensure accurate delivery. Okay, together, routing and logical addressing work hand in hand. Okay, so routing finds the best path while logical addressing ensures data reaches the correct destination. Okay, so the next layer, we have transport layer. Okay, this layer has two functions and two services. Okay, the transport layer is responsible for breaking down large messages into smaller, manageable pieces called segments, and a process known as segmentation. Okay, this makes it easier and more efficient to send data across a network. Okay, once all the segments reach the destination, the transport layer reassembles them back into the original message into the correct order. Okay, this ensures that even if the data travels through different paths, it will still be complete and accurate when it arrives. Okay, so in addition, the transport layer uses service point addressing through port numbers to make sure the data is delivered to the correct application or process on a device. Okay, so for example, when you are browsing the internet while also using a messaging app, ports numbers help the system know which data belongs to which application. Okay, the transport layer can also provide two types of services. Okay, connection-oriented service, which establishes a connection before sending data. Okay, and ensures reliable delivery with error checking and acknowledgement. Okay, and this connectionless service which sends the data without setting up a connection, making it faster but less reliable. Okay? And next layer we have session layer. Okay? This layer we have three functions. Okay? The session layer is responsible for managing communication sessions between two devices or processes. Okay? It allows them to establish a connection, maintain it while data is being exchanged, and properly terminate it once the communication is complete. Okay? This ensures that conversations between systems are organized and controlled, preventing sudden disconnections or confusions during data transfer. Okay? This session layer handles synchronization and dialogue control. Okay? It involves setting checkpoints in the data stream so that if a failure occurs, the transmission can resume from the last checkpoint instead of starting over. Okay? Meanwhile, dialogue control determines how communication flows between devices. Okay? Whether in half duplex, full duplex. Okay? These functions help make communication more efficient, reliable, and well coordinated between systems. Okay? And the next layer we have presentation layer. And this layer we have two functions. Okay? The presentation layer is responsible for preparing data so it can be properly understood by different systems. Okay? One of its main function is encryption and decryption, okay, which helps secure data during transmission. Encryption converts readable data, called plain text, okay, into an unreadable format known as ciphertext, protecting it from unauthorized access. Okay? Once the data reaches its destination, it is decrypted. Okay? It is decrypted back into its original form so the receiver can understand it. Okay? This process is important for maintaining privacy and security, especially when sending sensitive information over the internet. Okay? Another important function of the presentation layer is compression, okay, which reduces the size of the data before it is transmitted. Okay? By minimizing the number of bits needed, compression helps speeds up data transfer and saves bandwidth. Okay? When the compressed data arrive at its destination, it is decompressed back to its original size and form. Okay? Together, encryption and decryption and compression ensure that data is both secure and efficiently transmitted across networks. Okay? And next layer we have application layer. Okay? This layer we have three functions. Okay? The application layer provides services that allow users to interact directly with the network. Okay? One of its functions is the Network Virtual Terminal, or NVT, okay, which enables a user to log in and access a remote computer as if they were physically present. Okay? This makes it possible to control another system from a distance. Okay? Which is useful for managing servers or accessing files remotely. Another function is file transfer access and management, or IFTEM, okay, which allows users to transfer, retrieve, and manage files from a remote computer, making file sharing and remote storage more efficient. Okay, so this layer supports directory